Hi there. My name is David Batsoffen and I host a travel blog called Travel and Things. At the moment, I'm doing a series called In Conversation With. And today, I suppose I could start off with a joke. So, a Jew and a Muslim meet on a Zoom chat. Riaad Moosa, take it from there.
There's a lot of inappropriate jokes you can make as long as it's not meet on a boom chat.
Yeah. Oh.
Let's start it off in dangerous territory there, David.
Straight away, we're both on a list.
This is hectic. Like you host a travel blog when you can't even travel or do nothing. Interprovincial travel is like, it's just been open now. It's just been open. Now
well, you see, this is the thing. People say to me, what are you? And I say, at the moment, I'm a non-traveling travel writer. And whatever you were on the 26th of March, on the 27th of March, you just had to add the word non in front of that. Because whatever you were, you're no longer.
Unless you're saying, okay, today I'm traveling to my lounge. Now I'm going to spend, my holiday in my backyard.
Spend quality time in the toilet.
Yeah, exactly, dude. It's a weird time. Everything is upside down. Now it's like to meet someone, it's bad manners to shake hands.
Yeah.
Dressing up like a robber when you go to the to the mall as good manners.
Is legal now.
It's actually good. I don't know what happens. Probably robbers actually have to queue outside the Checkers, just like most people. It's a very confusing time.
You can't just walk in and rob a place. No, you've got to wait at the back with a mask, and then you have to sanitize before you pull your weapon out.
Yes, and then you pull your weapon out, and they said, "What are you doing?" They tested my temperature at when I got here, and he said, "No, this is not." This is an actual firearm.
Riaad, I know that you've been doing Netflix comedy specials. Talk to me about those. What are those like doing, and where have you shot them?
Well, interestingly enough, the first one, my first opportunity to be on Netflix was on a program called Comedians of the World, where comedians from a number of countries took part, and we filmed that in Montreal in Canada, which is a very scary experience because, generally Netflix is, the pinnacle at the moment in terms of comedy. And, as South Africans, we didn't even think that that would be possible. So I was fortunate to be part of the first group of South Africans to be, well, aside from Trevor, to be allowed onto a Netflix platform from South Africa, because Trevor had been in the United States. I mean, predominantly people from South Africa who hadn't decided to make the move. And I hadn't had much experience in performing for international audiences. And you have to understand the audience and also how they perceive you in order to know how to connect with them quickly. Now, here in South Africa, people have a reference of the type of person that I am, but overseas it's very strange because they don't know how to categorize me, right? I say I'm of Indian descent, partially. I say I'm Muslim. I used to be a doctor. Now I'm a comedian. I'm a first language English speaker, but it seems like I need subtitles in English to them, which is like a mind. It's also introducing a comedian from Africa, all the way from Africa. Then I walk out and people are like, so people don't know how to place me. So, and especially the accent just makes it way more confusing. Luckily, and then to compound everything, when we were busy prepping for the show, we had the opportunity to do Netflix. Now, most people get like months or even a year to work on their Netflix show. So they know it's perfect, and they putting their best, foot forward. But we had, I think, 4 shows in total, and not 4 full test shows. We had a 10-minute at 12 o'clock the first night. I got a 8-minute at 4 o'clock the next day. Then I, was, blessed with a 20-minute show to 14 people, a warm-up show. And now, okay, now put your best foot forward and perform a half an hour special to the world.
Yeah.
Like, and I was just fortunate that, what, I think the audience smiled on me that day, just like I connected with them. I started immediately talking about my accent, and I found that, just by answering that question, afterwards, I was able to connect with him like I do at home. Because in the past, what would happen is I would just get into my normal material, and I wouldn't answer the questions that the audiences have. So what happens is there wasn't really a connection. And I thought, now, what am I doing wrong? And it seemed like, I just needed to spend a little bit of time answering those questions or the gaps in their knowledge or experience. And then afterwards, they could actually go with me, making fun of my accent and how people perceive my accent actually also made people focus a little bit more on how I was speaking and connect with how I was speaking.
Yeah.
So as opposed to not talking about it at all, just made people confused. So
Because I'm sure you could see it on their faces when you stepped out and you say that first hello, and you can see the WTF come up where eyeballs should be. So getting it out of the way.
Well, when I walk out immediately from South Africa, and then it's me. Like with Loiso Gola, it makes sense. With Tumu Moraki, it makes sense. But from an international perspective, who's this? What? And I don't know what language is he speaking. I'm speaking English, bruh. I'm speaking English. I'm a first language English speaker, right? It's not like this is my mother tongue. There's no language I speak better than the language I'm speaking now, right? And people obviously think that it's a second language because it is a weird accent. It's a strange accent because I sound like I could speak Afrikaans. I talk about this in my specials, but I don't speak Afrikaans well. But I've got the r and the and all of that exists within the Afrikaans language, right, as a veneer to my English communication. So it's strange. It is very strange. And our culture, the subculture of sort of the so-called Cape Muslim or Cape Colored, within the context of a global stage, is not really evident as of yet. People get confused. Like, I mean, you from South Africa, but you don't sound anything like Trevor Noah. Like, there's no similarity.
They got no point
what
of
accent are you doing? Yeah.
They got no point of reference for you at all. And then toss into the mix the fact that you're a medical doctor. And that must also confuse the hell out of them.
Very much so. Like, even more so. Not as much as like Indians. They just can't. I think they need to take some time out and, give them some sugar water, maybe fan them. Why would anybody do that? Give up the prestige of medicine to become a clown. This makes no sense.
Have you ever been in a club and you're sort of about to go on stage and all of a sudden you hear that famous line, "Is there a doctor in the house?" And then you go, "Yeah, I am." And they go, "Yeah, right. You're a comedian. You're performing this evening. Don't pretend you're a doctor."
Yeah, no, I actually feel worried. Oh, okay. Somebody, at times people have gotten ill in my shows and I'm like, okay, I just did like 10 minutes of saying that I'm a doctor. I did say that, I don't remember anything, but still, I think there's like a pressure on me to at least know the basics.
Yeah.
But I think once you have done it for a while, you do generally know the process, the basic procedures and how to handle things quickly. It's almost like getting over things. Like when we work in the ER, you get over putting up drips. You get over with like piercing skin and
Mm.
sewing people up and all of that. Like in that sense, the first step is the hardest, you know, and doing it
Or,
again after many years.
or to
Like
quote a lyric, the first cut is the deepest.
exactly. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Because you see, I'm
The
being married.
first cut is the
Yeah.
deepest. Is it,
Don't
who's
give
that
up your
again?
day job, Riaad.
What's the name? Ah, dude.
I can't
Dude.
even remember who sang that.
No, man, I do know that. It's Sheryl Crow.
But she didn't
Am
do
I
the
right?
original. It's from
Oh,
the
okay.
60s or 70s.
Okay.
But I'm married to a doctor, so I know what it's like sitting at home watching one of those drama series, and she's a medical drama series, and she's screaming at the screen, "No, you don't
It's
test for that
wrong.
this way. And
That's
why are you
wrong.
doing that? That's a stupid test. It doesn't give you the answer you want. If you just ask them to take a drop of sugar water, they'll be fine because they're diabetic
Yes.
or what."
Exactly. And South Africa also, like from us doctors, you know, people waste a lot of money
Yeah.
in the United States. They waste a lot of money.
Talk to me about Riaad Moosa in Matric. What were you like?
I'm a quiet guy, generally.
Mm,
So I only wake up when I'm on stage. So I would only sort of show my sort of performance prowess uh, at the orals, the English orals, or the Mondelanga, or at times when I did take part in plays. But other than that, I'm just
low profile, did your work and got on with it.
yeah, you know, I'm one of those comics that observe.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily need to be the center of attention, but I love jokes. But I do it through sort of observation and noticing funny things and
Mm,
enjoying funny things. But I don't necessarily need. I think within a social setting to be like the center of attention. In fact,
yeah.
I'm quite uncomfortable in that. It's weird. So a lot of people will go now. Okay, I'm meeting Riaad. Okay, 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 Riaad. Okay, now do that thing that you do. And I'm just sitting there talking, wanting to have a meaningful discussion about, you know,
Check
about
off.
meaning and yeah, and and understanding your purpose and
Yeah.
you know, I like deep discussions that
Yeah.
but I obviously love jokes, but I will more like talk about like the art form of comedy and
Mm,
all of these things. And there's comics, there's a lot of comics like me, but we're all a bit off. That's the thing about comedians. There's something that's not right. Uh, uh, you know, so even amongst yeah, eh, we are odd bunch. Like there's nobody normal who felt or very few people who actually felt part of the mainstream. Everybody felt like not excluded, but
mm.
you felt marginalized to a certain
Outside of the
extent.
box.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
We're a bit nutty.
why medical school? Was this sort of pressure from your parents?
No, no. I always wanted to do medicine, and
Oh, okay.
that's always what I wanted to do. Both my parents are doctors, and you know, I had no real pressure
Mm,
to do medicine, but like I always wanted to. That was like I just happened to be doing voices at the same time, so I would be doing impersonations and you know, doing little performances for my parents and so on and so forth. But always, you know, generally bookish, trying to do well at school. My father's a very hard worker. I just sort of emulated that.
mm,
But then I started, you know, gravitating towards performing when I used to do. The first time was when I got exposed to the College of Magic. So Standard 7, that sort of, I think, sparked the transition.
mm.
Um, so Standard 7, I got exposed to the College of Magic by my friend Abu Bakr Bray. And Abu Bakr Bray was like dude, check this out. I remember we were sitting by the prefab there at South Peninsula High School. And he showed me this pamphlet of this magic school. And he said, come, let's do this, bruh. And I was like, okay. He seemed excited about it. I'm an agreeable person by nature. So I'm like, okay. Right. And I ended up going to this bloody College of Magic, and he didn't, because his parents said magic was haram.
Oh.
Yeah, magic prohibited. It's wrong. It says so in this narration by the scholar that this is not allowed. Yeah, but that is like when they're boiling the newts and the eye of the newt and the horse sweat and all of that, and they're using magic, to
A different kind of magic there.
Yeah, the evil eye and all that vibes.
Yeah.
This is like, card tricks, bruh. Yeah, well, I'll make I'll make whatever a dove appear, So I went to do the College of Magic, and that set in motion a series of events that led me down a completely different path. And Abu Bakr is in IT. Abu Bakr, no magic for him. The only way he makes things disappear is like maybe Control or Delete. But nothing that, like the dude. And he was the guy who was so into it.
Yeah.
And that's why also, like, my parents, they always expected me to work hard, but they weren't really restrictive. They didn't, stop us from engaging in things that we enjoyed. They did get a bit worried though because I would just go to the College of Magic, and I would do birthday parties, kids' birthday parties for a bit of extra change. And then when I went to med school, I used to just do it every now and then, for a little bit of extra pocket money. But then after fourth year medicine, I decided to take a break from med school. For some reason, I felt, now I need to take a break from this thing. And I said, I want to do magic for a year.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know why I said that. It's just, I think I sensed that, maybe medicine wasn't really where I wanted to be. But I never sort of said that forthrightly and outwardly, and I never admitted that to myself. So it was always the idea that I'd take a break and then I'd come back. And because of that, my father said it was fine. And being my dad, he says, if you're going to take a gap year, you need to study something else. So other people go to Europe, and me, I went to study also Afrikaans and economics as part of my gap year at upper campus. And compared to medicine, it was a jolt, bruh. Like, really. So I was happy. And I during that year, I found what is known as stand-up comedy. And it was never something that I really knew about. Mark Banks, we used to watch when I was younger. I remember going to the see Mark Banks at the Backstand. It was so enjoyable. I really enjoyed the experience, but I never, comedy as an art form wasn't really prominent in my mind. My grandfather was always a joke teller, and he was very captivating with all his anecdotes and so on. So that's where I saw someone being funny. My parents weren't generally funny. My mother's very particular. She's very politically correct. It's not she doesn't have a sense of humor, but I mean, if it's somewhat a joke that doesn't send the correct message, then she always,
there's a look that goes with it.
Makes it no. I mean, in terms of what are you saying with that?
Yeah.
So I generally find it has allowed me to, be more sensitive in how I write my comedy. So I try to write it in a way, not that I don't have any edge in my comedy. It's just I try and be cognizant of the fact that I'm primarily there to make people laugh. It's not to express myself freely. Yeah. I want to make people laugh and make people comfortable. I'll make you. I'll tiptoe around the edge, but I'm not gonna run across and then afterwards say, I have freedom of expression, I'll just say whatever I want to deal with it.
when,
No, I don't have that approach.
when you were practicing as a doctor, did you used to perform to your patients? Did you do
I
voices to children and that type of thing? Or if you had to,
yes, at,
if you had to tell them bad news, like they've got cancer or they're going to have a serious operation, did you do it in a funny voice so that it took the edge off what you were about to tell them?
no, I was never able to assimilate that actually. So when I was Dr. Riaad, I was like very, very direct,
Yeah.
and it would actually confuse many people, especially colleagues who worked with me.
So you're
And when
not
they
Patch
come to
Adams.
see no, I wouldn't. Although I was inspired by that, and I think I'd like to do some form of that now. But you see, like with medicine, like humor is very much about survival.
Mm,
So when you actually deal with death, it's difficult to force people. So, for example, if people are confronting death or mortality, if they laugh, then it's very cathartic and healing
mm.
by themselves. But I can't tell you, as the victim of something, to laugh at your pain, right?
Yeah.
Like when they say laughter is the best medicine. If you're laughing, it's
Mm.
not like ha ha, you got cancer. Ha ha. It's not. That's
Yeah.
not medicine. That's not the best medicine. It's you laughing
Yeah.
about your own issues, and that is cathartic. So I want to focus on like wellness
Mm.
and preventative medicine. So there's more room to be funny,
Yeah.
because you're not like if I'm talking about athlete's foot, I'm talking about how you eat.
Yeah.
There's much more room to joke about because the stakes are lower
Mm.
in the sense. So I think I want to play in that space a little bit um, in the future. Got this concept called the best medicine,
Mm.
and I want to talk about how laughter is beneficial and many also other practices that's easily accessible on a daily basis that you can do to adjust your mood and um,
Specifically
that's not
now
only
during lockdown and all that the COVID-19 has brought with it, because I know myself included, and I know we were chatting beforehand before I pushed record that you were also saying it's been a tough time, and we as human beings are not used to this. We are gregarious people. I know
yeah
I was at a place doing some work, and there was another photographer and his partner, and she walked up, sort of came towards our table, my wife and I, and said, "Would you mind if if we joined you for dinner?" And normally I would go, "No, not a problem." And the first words out of my mouth were, "Yes, I would. I don't want you sitting at our table. There's a table there that's a couple of meters away. You could sit there and we can still have a conversation, but I don't want you at this table."
yes yes
And it's a
so
weird
so
feeling. It's
it's
like not shaking hands. That's your immediate
yes
response. It always has
yes
been. And now we're not allowed to do it.
Yes, because we've had millennia, actually thousands of years, to develop these social norms.
Yeah.
We've had a long time to settle all these things, right? And that just becomes part of culture and part of socialization and part of how we interact with each other,
Mm.
right? But now all of a sudden we have to develop this new culture, and it also depends on your nature. This is the thing. So, people who are extroverted by nature are more vulnerable to the lockdown than
Yeah.
people who are introverted. So, so everybody's social, but like introverted people have more fortitude about like just being at home and chilling.
Yeah.
Whereas
For
with
them, it's an,
extroverted people are extroverted by nature. It's like this is like fodder for mental illness.
it is
It's like
it is indeed. PTSD
mm,
is going to come out of this, whether people realize it or not. Um,
yes, that's right. And then also how people manage risk.
mm,
What's your nature and how risky you are. It affects things because certain people go, okay, I manage my risk, and so I'm going to behave in this way. But a lot of this, how they're expecting us to behave, is to be aware of the other. right?
Yeah.
So that's important. So for example, you go like, some people can't think of that. So there's people who tend to more narcissism. They will not even be able to that's not their first thought. They expect another person to tell them forthrightly, but then your agreeable people will just tend to I'm gonna agree. So there's like a person who wants to shake hands, and there are people who just want to shake hands. Even this time, like there's everywhere they say, don't bloody shake hands because you may transmit things.
Yeah.
You can be a carrier. Now, whether that's true or not, and how accurate that is, right? It seemed to be like true, but how true it is and the details of that, like that still must be sort of extrapolated. It's like I say, this is like we learning as we are going along,
Mm.
and it's like when vampires first appeared, right? So vampires first appeared, you go, oh no, there's vampires, you need to stay in the house, just go in the house, don't go out. There's like undead people with white faces and brill cream like on their hair, and they're trying to eat us, bruh. And then people go, okay, but I can't stay in the house the whole time, I need to go get food. So we go out, and then they find during the day, and we find that no one is getting charged by a vampire. So people go, okay, it turns out that vampires are killed by sunlight, right? But not the liquid. I don't mean like a dishwasher. I mean that ball of gas in the sky, right? And then people go, okay, so we can go out. And they say, but don't go out at night because we're pretty sure that vampires come out at night. And some people go, what do you know, bruh? I need to go out at night. And then 12 people go out at night, and 11 people get chowed by the vampire. And the 12th person, why didn't he get chowed? Because for supper, he ate a garlic cheetah for supper, right? So he didn't get chowed by the vampire. So now the scientists go, oh, okay, vampires are sensitive to garlic cheetahs. They don't know it's the garlic in the cheetah. They think it's just the garlic cheetah, right? From Panarottis or whatever. They know that, okay, everybody have a garlic cheetah from Panarottis before you go out. So that, and then over time, okay, they figure, oh, it's actually the garlic. Or a Muslim, a Jew, let's do this. A Muslim, a Jew, and a Christian go out, and then the Muslim and Jew gets chowed, but the Christian is fine. And it's like, why is that, right? Then people, it's because the crucifix, vampires are scared of crucifixes, right? You heard about that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
So, but then people maybe get confused because they think maybe it's got to do with the little operation that both a Muslim and Jew went through as babies or youngsters. They didn't know. They think, okay, maybe it's the foreskin, maybe it's the foreskin that makes you vulnerable to the vampire. How do we get? So there's some people who go, now, how do I glue my foreskin back? So we need to glue our foreskin. We can't do it. Let's like, okay, get a calamari tube from Ocean Basket, right? And then just put it on like a beanie. And then maybe that'll give you protection. This is what's going on here. People are just grasping at straws to try and figure things out. And
They
after
can't
a
even,
while,
you can't even grasp at straws because they don't allow you to use straws because straws end up in the sea and then turtles die, Ria. Don't you know this?
yeah.
What are you, sort of some anti-conservationist that wants to kill off all the wildlife in the sea now? Don't
Yeah, that's
grasp at
exactly
straws
true.
unless they're
That's
bamboo
exactly
or
true, bro.
stainless steel.
Stainless steel or pasta straws. Yeah. Have you had a pasta straw before? Yeah. So it's a weird time, and my only concern with this is that it's protracted. You don't know how long it's gonna
Yeah.
go on. It's like in the beginning it's okay, but I mean, where does this end? The vaccine. We're just gonna. I guess compared to the other countries, I guess we're just gonna maintain. This. It's always a risk. What is a risk-related strategy? So it's based on how many people have it at a particular point in
Yeah.
time, and like how many deaths there are. So because like we now got, what is it? Like our hospitals are generally managing,
Mm.
and most people are recovering. So that's all good signs. But we can, like many, the benefit is that we can watch all these other countries that are way ahead of us,
Yeah.
and we can adjust things. But
But
it
I don't,
gets very complicated.
it does. I don't know about you, but in the beginning, when in sort of March, just when
Yeah.
it started overseas, I always thought, if you watch any major disaster movie, it
Yeah.
always happens in the northern hemisphere. Never comes down to Africa. Or if it does, it gets to Egypt, and that's where the mummies come out at night, and things happen. But it never
Yeah.
comes to South Africa. And I was one
Yeah.
of those that when those first 21 days, I said, this is never going to come to South Africa. We're going to be fine. The rest of the world will eat itself up. The vampires, is that nice analogy that you just used, the vampires will eat the whole of the northern hemisphere and will leave us alone. And then purportedly that one person from Cape Town went to Italy to ski. And when they
Yeah.
came back, then they brought it back with them. And we know the rest is basically history. But we all, and again, I was one of them, those first 21 days, when the president stepped up and said, this is how we're going to deal with it. I was the one who went, rah, rah, rah. This will give me the opportunity to finish the novel that I'd started,
Yeah.
who started writing, to finish off the online course that I was doing. And that lasted about 3 days. And then status quo struck again, and you sort of go, I'll do it tomorrow or tomorrow. And now here we are, 120 days later, and I still haven't finished. I haven't even gone back to the novel. I haven't written one single word. I started on the online course, failed the first module, and went, stuff you. I don't need this as well.
I need to protect my self-esteem here, bruh.
Exactly.
This is bloody online stuff. Everything I'm doing online.
Yeah.
And now you're going to fail me online.
And now you fail me. And when I contact them to say, why are the questions so hard? They go, the questions are immaterial. I go, then why are you failing me? And tell me at least, give me a hint, give me a heads up,
Why? Tell me why. What's wrong?
Tell me why. Explain this to me. Tell me why I'm wrong. Anyway, so we all end up doing a variety of different things, I suppose. But my concern now, and maybe from both your medical and your comedic point of view, you've got some answers to this, is my initial response to we are going to level 2 was, oh hell, now I don't have an excuse to stay at home, because people are going to say, no, you can come and visit. And I'm going, but I don't want, I'm not in a headspace to just go rah, rah, rah. Let me come and sit in your house and have a cup of tea, and then in a week I've got the disease. No.
Yeah, no. I wouldn't do that either. Like, only do what's necessary.
Yeah.
So, for example, if you're isolated and you can't deal with being alone, right? Or someone, you need to go to work, then go to work.
Yeah.
Right? But if you are vulnerable, if you have comorbidities, just protect yourself.
Yeah.
That's what my parents are doing.
Yeah.
Right?
That's what I've been doing.
My mother is, that's what we're going to do, so I stay next door to my parents. And because we are actually, having to go out at times, take the kids to school, I go to the shop. We generally social distance from my parents. I drop them food and whatever they need, and get them whatever they require, and then I put it on the table outside, and then my mother sanitizes everything. And we support each other that way. It's difficult for the grandkids. They interact with the kids via Zoom, but that's challenging.
Yeah.
But that's the approach. And then there's people on the other side of the family, like my wife's side of the family. There's no like just no mask, shaking hands. Let's get together. I'm like, brah! And you can't convince people with stats and with technicalities. It's got to do with the way in which you assess risk.
Yeah. Yeah.
How um, what tools you use as a human being to
Mm.
assess a risk.
Yeah.
And it's like the same people who will go, I'm not wearing a bloody condom, like it's or I'm putting on a seatbelt, I'm not putting on a seatbelt. How I grew up, how religious you are also sometimes, because people will I think generally if the person is an extroverted person who needs to be out there, they will utilize the argument of, God will decide when you get the thing,
Yeah.
which is true. But then they will say, they generally as a nature take more risks,
Mm.
and then they attribute that to, sometimes they say, then no, you don't believe uh,
Yeah.
as
There's
much as
always
I do.
always
Like,
one in a
yeah,
group.
you don't have God consciousness as much. We call it
Yeah.
taqwa. It's like we have this thing about, uh, 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 people going, tie your camel.
Mm.
As the analogy is, you need to, take responsibility for what you have, but also put your faith in Allah. So it's that balance. Sure, it's
Yeah.
in every religion. It's like some people don't want to tie their camel, and I'm just gonna put my faith in Allah, right? And
Yeah.
then some people will chain the camel and nail the camel's hooves like to the floor.
Doesn't
You know,
don't trust anybody.
yeah. So it's like, and you don't know, and it depends on your nature. And what I've found comforting in this is that everything is necessary, because you can't just have people who want to stay in the house,
Mm.
and you can't just have people want to explore, because you need the people who want to explore and go out there and getting charred by the vampires, because then you're gonna like
Because then we
figure things
know.
out,
Yeah.
right?
Because
And you
if
need
no,
the people who need to be prudent. Okay, there are people who like sit in a cupboard and then they don't do anything, but there are people who, I'm being reasonable now, I'm living a balanced uh, I'm having a balanced approach based on the evidence that I have in front of me,
mm,
and this is how I want to live my life, right? The important thing is that I think we must not assume for other people, like
yeah.
people can't be, because of their nature, they want to now level 2 house party, like assume for David now, let's have a Joel, David. You got to ask, you got
Yeah.
to ask what makes you comfortable, and
Yeah.
then be understanding. Don't impose how you approach the situation on other people. That being said, right, there has to be a minimum, a bema. There's safety
Yeah.
involved. Yeah. So people can't break, ideally, like a what everybody agrees is the way forward,
Mm,
and then if we all just generally stick to the rules by and large, but now once we emerge from the rules, people are going to have different approaches, as you say, and that's when it's going to get
that's
contentious, and people
that's
are
when
going
the
to,
brown stuff is going to start hitting the fan.
yeah,
But let's
dude, it's
let's get
already
away from
doing that.
yeah, let's get away from this for a moment. Let's go back to the Netflix special. Is what is planned for Riaad going forward? I mean, I know that you've
So
been very busy. Are you doing online stuff? Are you doing other Netflix specials?
yeah, so I am doing an online show. So my other show, Life Begins, that one was actually filmed a few years ago, and I hadn't anticipated putting it out on Netflix. So it's licensed to
Mm,
Netflix. But I'd like to do a Netflix original special. That would be the next thing,
okay.
you know, to
And
get a
how
Netflix original comedy special.
okay? How
And
controlling
that's
are
the next aim.
Netflix about content then, Riaad? Do they give you
No, no, no.
free reign?
Yeah, they're generally very supportive. You have to give them like a transcript of the thing, so that they can vet it from a legal perspective.
Yeah.
That's all they need to know, and then they will say, okay, this may be an issue, can you change that, or stuff like that. From artistic point of view, generally, they're very supportive, but they're very like covert, that you don't know how. Like, I don't even know how I got into. People always ask me, how did you get into Netflix? Who do we need to phone? Blah blah.
Yeah.
They find you, bro.
It's the vampires, the
They find
Netflix
you.
vampires. They come
Yeah,
out at
they
night to
find
come and watch
you,
your show.
and then they won't really even tell you, like, if your thing is doing well. They will maybe just say, okay, I'll give you another chance with something, but they
Really?
won't, like, they're very secretive. It's like you can get the information, but they guard a lot of the information and
But
they
do
process.
they, maybe what we're missing now, or maybe what you're missing, is that secret handshake that gets you to those facts and figure, that data that they've got that they won't tell you about.
Yeah,
Give
but
me,
it's not allowed because it's COVID. You can't shake
yeah,
hands.
you see, CIA, comedy in action. Um,
Yeah.
your best and worst gigs ever, do you remember them?
There's always a worse gig. I did an online gig. I think that was the best and the worst gig at this point, because while I was doing it, I had no idea, because there's no audience. So I don't
Mm,
know, like, if they're enjoying it or not. And like, it is the most nerve-wracking experience that I've ever had. I did a full online show. It was my Not a Nice Guy show, and I love that show. I was planning to tour with that show, and but I had no sort of way of gauging the audience, and I
yeah,
just was performing to this camera, and it was the most frustrating and scary show that I've done, and I felt the worst while I was doing it, but the response was very, very positive. So. And the feeling that I got about the possibilities of engaging with the online media afterwards was very, very rewarding. So, like, in terms of a recent show, that was like the best and the worst show.
mm,
And I hope to do like more of these online shows. I'm thinking maybe take, um, like, and some idea from what you're doing, in the sense of of maybe having a Zoom stand-up comedy show, to work on material. So have
mm,
a minute, a few people, giving a few people access, and then actually just engaging in the platform and seeing, if I
yeah.
can try out some
If the
jokes on the
material
people.
works.
Yeah. And obviously it's different. It's going to be different, but I think that is the only thing I'm going to be able to do, because it's going to be a long time before I get to go out again. And because of my parents and all of that, and we're close together, I'm not going to necessarily be able to go out and
Yeah.
do these live shows and for a while.
But also,
So I gotta figure out something else.
do you want to put yourself in a theater that seats, and if we look in Cape Town, I don't know if the Three Arts is still going, but that's a 3,500 seater or whatever it is, and you can only put 50 people in there, and the front
Yeah.
row of that theater seats 58. I know, because I did a show there many years ago. 58 people in the front row, and you can't even fill a front row. What do you do with the
Nah,
rest?
dude.
It's
Nah, I
like
would.
it's like a furniture convention, and they only send the furniture.
Yeah. I wouldn't. I would. If I did, it would be the people are doing outdoor shows.
Yeah.
That's what people are doing. Socially distant shows. But I think for stand-up comedy, uh, if you didn't like the bigger comedians, they can invite people to their homes, and people can have like chairs outside.
Mm,
But I mean, the theaters aren't going to be opening for a while. So we don't know.
yeah.
And all I need to prep for is that, if this goes on for a long period of time, I must have other options and
You can
still
go back to
continue to move
medicine.
forward. Yeah, but I don't remember anything, bruh.
Don't
That's
they
the
have,
problem.
if you're a scuba diver and you don't
TPD
dive for a
points,
while,
yes.
you can
Yes.
you can go back and you can do a crash course in
Yes.
remembering how to breathe and all that type of stuff. Don't they do it
Yeah.
for medicine? There's a 2-hour special that you can do
Yeah.
online.
Yeah. I
Pick up
think
a scalpel with your left
it'll
hand if
be
you're right-handed.
a long process. But like I I'm thinking about doing that, but it's I'm more likely to produce health content
Yeah.
than actually do medicine.
You see, but now this
Um,
is another thing. You've just alluded to it. People are producing content at the moment. This that we're doing now is content production for my In
yeah,
Conversation With series. But
yeah,
now the new thing, everybody has been reaching out. So then I
Oh.
learned a new one. You don't reach out anymore. You lean in. So now I'm reaching out and I'm leaning in. But at the same time, because I used to be in radio and I'm now in the visual rather than the voice, I'm also pivoting. So I'm reaching out, I'm leaning in, and I'm pivoting. So who needs a gym, but because I'm
Who needs
gymming
it?
as I sit here talking to you.
Pivot, lean in, reach out. Yeah, it
Exactly.
sounds like some sort of
It's,
Zoom
it's
aerobics class.
that's exactly what it is. Riaad, for people who want to find out more about you, it's been a gas talking to you. It really and truly has. For people who want to find out and to see if you're available, maybe they've got corporate gigs you can do online if you want to do that. Maybe they're looking for health and wellness consultations and you can give them drugs or whatever. How do they find you online?
Well, I mean, you can go to my website, riaadmoosa.com or riaadmoosa.co.za,
Right.
or on all the social media channels under my name, Riaad Moosa, Facebook, Twitter,
You
Instagram, YouTube. I got lots of content on YouTube,
okay.
and even TikTok.
What?
I'm doing all
Whoa.
these weird dances with my little with my daughter who just
Have you
loves that.
have you done a version of Jerusalem yet?
Oh no.
No, you must
No.
try that. You got to dance with your child.
I haven't pivoted and reached out and leaned in like you did. Like, I don't even know what you're talking about. Right? I'm going to go and Google that
Go and
hashtag
hashtag
right
Google
now.
all of that. My in conversation guest today has been really incredibly funny, Riaad Moosa. Riaad, thank you so much for taking time to chat to me.
Thank you.